Allow me to share with you two items. One has Arduitape written across it, the other Commodore, but both these devices serve the same purpose. They can be used instead of a tape deck to load data into your home micro. When I say tape deck, I mean something like this. This is a Commodore Dataset 1530. It's a common tape drive variant used to load software into your Commodore 64. There were different models encompassing various Commodore machines, but this is probably the most common. Its operation is simple. You plug it into the edge connector on your C64, you insert a tape, you press the Commodore and run stop keys in unison, and then you press play on the drive. Your piece of software will then load over the course of several minutes. For ZX Spectrum owners, the process was a little different. Rather than bespoke devices, any old cassette recorder with mic and ear sockets could be used, and although it meant fiddling with the volume controls to get the optimum signal strength, the outcome was pretty much the same. Back in the day, tape drives hooked up to 8-bit micros was as common as muck. Well, in Europe at least. Over in North America, the disk drive was dominant, allowing a speed and finesse of loading that us Europeans could only dream of. You see, price was very much a large factor over here, and thankfully tapes and their associated hardware were cheap. Dirt cheap. Your mate Cuthbert, who lived in the nearby manor house, might have had a shiny disk drive, but really tape software was so abundant over here, having a disk drive was almost a disadvantage, even if it was impressive and quick. Of course, nowadays we don't really have that issue. Disk ROMs are readily available online, or you can simply convert your own disks to digital images. Then you can grab an SD2 IEC for £30 to £40 and emulate a disk drive with ease. It's so easy and quick, in fact, that having a digital tape drive makes no sense, does it? Well, there are numerous reasons why it might make sense. The first is that not all software is available on disk, with many European-only releases making it to cassette, but then you can always convert digital images to disk. The main reason, therefore, for me at least, is that I bloody love the tape drive experience. It's not just because I find tapes a magical wonder of creation either, even though they clearly are. So allow me to share my other reasons with you. Now, this Commodore 64 model I picked up from eBay for about £60. It's got retro fun branding on the SD card at least, and I can assure you that the Commodore logo is not officially licensed. To connect this beauty up, we simply plug it into the tape drive edge connector as normal and power the 64 up. The drive will then display its firmware number before presenting a menu. The main gist of this menu is that you can either play, record or change options. We'll dive straight into the good stuff for now and see what's on this SD card. It turns out there's quite a good selection. All I need to do is navigate the folders using the back to front arrow buttons, select a game I like the look of, although we're going purely on titles, there's no box artwork here I'm afraid. Then tell the C64 to load and then press play on the tape deck. It's as simple as it ever was. Data will then begin streaming from the tap files into the machine as normal. The automatic motor controls from the 64 even still work. Once a program has been found, its name will appear on screen and the drive will pause just like a real tape deck. It will then continue and your program will be loaded. In this instance, it's a video game adaptation of Risk. Marvellous stuff. So here's why tape games are so great. The first is the multitude of loading screens which are often just missed out from the disc-based versions. I used to love staring at this artwork, becoming infused with a feeling of wonder for the game being loaded. It was this artwork which used to fire my imagination and put me into the game world, because let's face it, the in-game graphics often fail to do that by themselves. Loading screens were great, but often accompanying this artwork there would also be music. This was the ultimate pairing. Well, in most cases anyway. Games like Batman the Movie and Deliverance simply wouldn't feel the same without this pre-spectacle warm-up. Sure, it might take 5 minutes to be able to actually play the game, but this anticipation was part of the package, and it meant that you'd bloody well enjoy the game whether it was utter detritus or not, or at least you'd have a good try to enjoy it. If we look into the options menu, we'll find things like invert, allowing you to invert the waveform of the image to be loaded if required. Options to speed up the ticker counter speed and pause timer there, and the ability to change the region from PAL to NTSC, which will affect the time granularity of the data. And even swap between C64, C16 and VIC-20 modes, because yes, you can use this drive across all 3 Commodore models. We also have the ability to record data directly to the SD card, and you can choose to enter your own file name or let the drive automatically assign one. The record function then works the same as a normal tape drive would. So this is a nice little unit and it serves my needs well, but how about that most British of machines, the ZX Spectrum? Well, for that we have this Arduitape TZXduino, and again it's a splendid looking device, which has little trouble invoking tape drive nostalgia. Now, things with the Specky are a little different. For starters, we don't have a bespoke interface, we've just got the standard 3.5mm audio jacks to carry the audio data. That means that the Arduitape also needs its own power source. This can be via a 6 to 9 volt jack or a USB Mini B connection. We also have a motor control jack, although the Spectrum isn't endowed with that feature. That's for platforms such as the Amstrad CPC or MSX. And of course we have an SD slot, this time it's a mini variant. From there, everything is pretty similar to the other device. After all, they're built on very similar hardware. The SD card can be navigated using the forward and reverse buttons, and ROMs can be played at a click of a button. There are far less options than the previous drive, it should be noted. Absent are options such as recording or inversion, and instead we just get pure navigation and play. But frankly, you don't really need anything else, do you? And if you do, I believe the latest firmware has some other bells and whistles to play with, but we'll get to that in a second. So yes, the Spectrum is a very different beast when it comes to loading. Everything feels much more raw and bare to the bones. We don't get the loading music like some C64 titles, nor do we get silence in the absence of music. Instead we get the sound of binary pulses streaming straight from the tape. Many may find this sound irritating, but personally, I love it. Nostalgia leaps from every pulse, every screech, and the sound of a loading screen being formed is almost unmistakable. Just like the C64, these loading screens added so much potency to our gaming experiences, and often served as a showcase for talented digital artists of the time. I mean, check out Daley Thompson's Decathlon this time around. It looks bloody glorious. Now, both the devices I have somewhat resemble a tape drive, and that's intentional on my part. You can buy these devices in varying forms, often in a more functional aesthetic, but I wanted devices which looked at least a little like the tape decks they were mimicking. This one I picked up from eBay for about £60 as well, although this particular model seems to be a little hard to come by, but you could make your own or buy a bare bones version and slip it into a 3D printed case if you wanted something similar. They're often sold under different names, although some variation on Arduino is common, mainly because they're built around an Arduino Nano board, or a clone at least. A fine gentleman by the name of Peter Edwards was one of the first people to come up with the solution of the C64 model, known as the Tapuino, back in 2014, and it's really a follow-up to the simpler U-cassette device. Duncan Edwards and Andrew Beer are really responsible for crossing over with the Arduitape, along with the Casduino in its MSX form, or the more recent TZXduino, which can also be used with the Amstrad CPC and even Acorn machines, as long as it's loaded with up-to-date firmware, which you can grab from the website. The TZXduino can load TAP files as well as TZX images, but the principle is the same regardless. By reading a block of data at the same time, the Duino then converts that block into audio for the Spectrum's needs. As we have heard, each block is made up of a pilot pulse and a mixture of long and short pulses to make up the binary instructions. You'll notice that both the Tapuino and TZXduino sold in various cases, made by anyone who has decided to take the hardware and make their own shell. But aside from these incarnations, there are various other open source projects and goings on, including the DC2N project by Luigi De Frere, which seems to have been going on for even longer than the projects here. Or build it yourself projects by people such as Charcoal on GitHub. You can even get models such as the SIO2SD for the Atari 8-bit range of computers, including rather pleasing cases like this one. You're really best to have a look around and see what suits you both aesthetically and technically. I've popped some links in the video description if you want to obtain models similar to what I've shown in this video. One more thing. You might think that with this modern technology, tape loading errors would be a thing of the past. But apparently that's something the Spectrum is seemingly unable to ever shake. I guess that's why we love it so much. That brings this little digital tape adventure to a close. I'll leave you with some further boxes to click, or you can thumb up or thumb down. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great evening.